Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so glad you could join us today for our segment on thriving during this COVID-19 with your family, with your loved ones who you're living with right now. This segment is geared toward specifically moms and dads who may be working at home now or doing online classes, and yet they still need to juggle one of their greatest priorities, which is their kids. So I hope that this segment is encouraging and maybe gives you some tips or things to think about that you can implement in your own family life. I have my very good friend Malaika Gunther. She's a med student right now, and she's supposed to be graduating this June. Unfortunately, their convocation was pushed back until this whole crisis is over. And so we're going to be talking about ways to thrive during this time. I know that for many of you, this has been a real blessing. Has been a real blessing to slow down, take the time with the family. Yes, with you too. But for many of you, this has also been a time of pain and suffering and anxiety and worries. So please enjoy and God bless. Well, thanks for joining me today and just talking about this because I think it's going to be very helpful to parents, but I think specifically moms to kind of see both sides and maybe I'm sure you'll be very inspiring and encouraging to a lot of moms in your answers and all this. So yeah, it's just an idea that just kind of came to me. I was like, I'm gonna ask Malaika. She's like the perfect candidate. So
Yeah,
so
sure. Thanks for asking.
yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
I'll start off with this question. How did
Mhm.
you first feel when the lockdown happened and
Mhm.
you heard that there's no more school for the kids? And what were
Mhm.
kind of the feelings you were going through?
That's a very good question. So, a lot of things, because first of all, just the fact that it's a change from what you were planning, what you were expecting. In terms of the kids, I was very excited that I'd get to spend more time with them.
Yeah.
So that was a pleasant surprise. Just in terms of my own career goals, it was a bit of I guess, ooh, we're gonna have to do things differently because I'm just wrapping up my medical degree, and so we were just at the end of fulfilling all our requirements, and so suddenly there were a number of things we wouldn't be able to do, at the university site. So now we had to start. Sorry, I have my daughter.
Oh, that's
So,
okay. She can join.
yeah,
As
sorry.
long as you're okay with her being on video in front of the
No
whole
problem.
world.
So here she is.
Hey, Nancy.
You. Oh, okay. I'll come down in a minute, okay? I'll come and help you. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
So basically, I was wondering how I would be able to finish my school requirements. And but that turned out really well because the university basically put everything online. And so we just had to adjust and adapt to a new way of learning.
Yeah.
There were a couple of disappointments in that our convocation ceremony was postponed. So, it meant not celebrating with my family and friends. My mom and my brother wouldn't be able to come over for the convocation. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But, they reassured me that, we'll still celebrate at some point and I'm still going to graduate. So that's
Yeah.
good. So yeah, I guess it was a lot of mixed feelings. I was excited to be home with the kids, but just also maybe finishing my degree in a way that was different from what I had envisioned. So just trying to wrap my mind around that and just adapt to the new situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess you
Yeah.
were blessed that you were in lockdown with an actual, like your family, your kids, and your
Yes,
husband, and not
exactly.
alone like some people are. And that's really unfortunate.
Yes, that's exactly right. And also, I'm very grateful for the neighborhood I live in. It's very conducive for families. There's places we can
Mm,
go bike riding, walking around, and it's very calm and peaceful. So it's nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
how do you juggle? So you do your classes online, and
Mhm.
you got two kids at home that you know.
Mhm.
How do you juggle the two? Yeah, the two of those things.
Yes. So it's definitely a challenge. There's some days that go really well, and other days go a little bit, differently from how I'd planned. But I think I've just come to the point where I'm okay with it because they're kids and they're young and they don't necessarily. I mean, they have their own emotions that they're dealing with. They're missing their friends. So I have to keep in mind that there's a lot going on. So we just try to go with the flow to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to my own online classes, being creative with technology. So recruiting friends like
Yeah.
you to help with homeschooling has been a big help. And actually, something that's been a big blessing is spending more time with family in the sense that my kids have lessons with family members online. So, like, one family member teaches them art, and another one is teaching them like programming and
Wow.
robotics and things that might have never happened if we were just doing our usual routine.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so they're spending time. So that's kind of how I balance that a little bit, is that when I have to be doing my online classes, then they're doing some activities with either friends or family online.
Mm-hmm.
Or I might try to time that with their allotted screen time for the day. So it's just basically, I do plan my days, like on the weekend I basically have a planning time when I plan, because I know what time my lessons will be, and so then I try to schedule things around that.
Yeah.
And other than that, the other thing that helps is like getting them more involved in responsibilities in the house.
Mm.
So now they have more chores to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, they were doing a little bit before, but now I'm trying to get them involved in more. And so I find that gives them something to do, and also it's just giving them more responsibilities, which I think is good for them too. So yeah, so those are
Yeah.
some of the things. Yeah.
How are you nurturing them and kind of those
Yes.
extracurricular activities?
So I find that definitely our normal weeks are always very busy and it's kind of hectic.
Mhm.
So I think it's nice that we can have very flexible days. They're both learning instruments, so now we have a lot more time for them to practice, and it's not like rushed at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm really counting this as a blessing that I'm just getting all this time with them, and like you said, getting them to explore more their interests. They're definitely getting to do that, so that's been a big blessing for me and for
Mhm.
them.
Oh, that's so great to hear that. That would be very easy to just be, okay, you're gonna sit here
Yes,
and let me just
yes,
enjoy my work, my classes, whatever.
yes,
But
yeah, exactly.
sounds like you've
And
got it.
and there are exactly, and I mean there are days when you're just exhausted and you're like, okay, this is going to be a screen time day, and okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
But then for the most part, just trying to find other ways, like you said, so that they're not just in front of the screens. And I think we've developed a pretty good balance. Like, they know. That's the other thing I also wanted to mention in terms of balancing things, is
Mhm.
explaining the expectation sort of ahead of time, so they know, okay, usually we have this many hours or however much time of screen time per day, and outside of that we're going to do other things. So, and then also making sure we try to go outside, at least once a day, just to run around, get some fresh air.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's really a good thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that tip that you said, like let kind of tell them ahead of time what you have in mind for the day. Like I find even outside of the lockdown context, if I told my kids, okay, you have 5 more minutes to do this and then we're going here, like just to kind of mentally prep them, okay, in 5 minutes, mom is going to tell me to stop what I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
and just go
Mm-hmm.
do whatever we need to do next. I find that's been very, very
Exactly.
helpful and kind of instead of surprising them and then they get all flustered and emotional because they want to do what they want to do, then you're just
Exactly.
really aiding the process. So I've been doing that a lot with my kids too. So, okay, this
Yeah.
is what we're doing
Yeah.
for tomorrow. I'll tell them the night before and then again I'll tell them in the morning. This is
Mm-hmm.
the plan for
Exactly.
today. And
Yes.
maybe you can have a little bit of screen time here and then you're gonna have half an hour of reading time and then you're gonna go play
Mm-hmm.
outside and yeah, so it's
Mm-hmm.
very helpful.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's really good. And also, I think this time has also been great for me, getting to know my kids on a deeper level.
Mm,
So, because so I already had an idea, of course, of what they were interested in, but even more so, I can see what their interests are.
yeah.
And been really nice to learn more about them, what makes them tick, what they enjoy more. There's
Yeah.
certain things where I'm like, okay, my kid does not like doing this, or my kid really likes doing this. And so it's very interesting. And especially since their kids are very different, I'm sure it's the same for you. So
Yeah.
they're very different. So trying to meet their needs based on their own personality and their own interests.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
No, that's true. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
And how do
Mm-hmm.
you make time for yourself, just for personal reflection and,
Yes.
meditation, relaxation, whatever people need during their day, their me time? But I don't like to call it
Yes.
me time because it seems very selfish. It's more of a healthy
Yeah.
personal time. Uh, so
I
now
like
that your
that.
kids are at home and you have to do classes
Yeah.
online and juggle extra,
Yes.
so how do you find that time for yourself?
So what works for me, I guess it's a habit that I've just built over time, is waking up early. So waking up before the kids wake up. So my kids usually wake up between, and this just of course depends on personality and your kid's own schedule, but
Mhm.
my kids usually wake up between 7:30 and 8:30. So I wake up like around 6. Just my body wakes up at that time anyway. But I find that hour and a half, my hour and a half before the kids wake up is crucial.
Okay.
So I use that time, for prayer, for reading my Bible, just for reading for pleasure. So it's very tempting to want to study during that time because I'm like, ooh, some time I should study. But I actually use that time just for reading for pleasure and reflecting, praying. And I just find it really, really helps set my mood for the day. And the other thing is the kids know that aside from the time when we go outside, that we always have some physical activity before supper.
Mhm.
So I'm always like, okay, mommy's going to do her exercise, and then I go down to the basement and do some exercise, and then I'll usually do a bit like read maybe for 5 minutes as well before I come back upstairs. And so I find just capping my day at the beginning and at the end with some time for myself really helps. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
So
I wish I could be an early morning riser like you.
yeah.
At 6. And when I was in high school, I actually woke up at 6
Yeah.
every morning, and those video lessons that I sent you, I would start my video
Yes.
lessons at 6, and I'd be done at
Wow.
11:30, like all my schoolwork.
Wow.
So I would just have my homework in
Wow.
the afternoon. And for some
Yeah.
reason, it's so difficult for me to do that now. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think it's because I haven't scheduled my nights properly the night before. I
Yes. So
tend to
that's
be night
yeah.
owl. And when I was
Yes.
in high school, I was able to do both, wake up at 6
Yes.
and then go to sleep
Yeah.
at midnight. I can't do
Yeah.
that anymore.
No.
So I
No.
think it's going to come down to how badly do I really want to wake up at 6 o'clock in the
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think exactly what you said. It's just about the night before thing, and that's again, I think it's partly just because throughout my medical training, I always had to get up very early just because I had a long commute.
Yeah.
And so I just got used to waking up early. But before that, it was the same thing. I would go to bed later, wake up later.
Yeah.
But because I was getting up so early, I was exhausted. I would basically fall asleep as soon as the kids were in bed. So I kind of got used to sleeping earlier and then waking up early. So, but
So it
yeah,
helps
it's
to have that like
yeah.
outside force you
Yes,
to go.
outside force indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Right
just,
now, I
my
don't
body now got
have
used to. Yeah,
that.
exactly. That's
That's
it.
good. And actually,
Yeah.
what you said about working out too, this is the most I've ever
Mhm.
worked out. Like during this whole lockdown thing, I got a subscription to it's this program called Center, and it's
Uh-huh.
actually, I don't know if you follow the Marvel movies at all.
Oh yes, yes,
The
absolutely. Yeah,
guy
yeah,
who
yeah.
plays Thor, Chris Hemsworth, at the end
Yes.
of March,
Oh
he's
yes,
the one that started
yes.
the Center Fitness program. And at the end of March, they
Ah.
had this free for 6-week trial. So I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And I've been
Mm.
loving it. I've been working out almost every,
Yes.
at least every second day. And it's
Nice.
just strange that, yeah, during the
Nice, nice.
lockdown, all these
Yes.
positive things that we may not have been doing before kind of were in
Very positive
for
things.
our
Yeah.
lives. And so hopefully
Yes, absolutely.
after
Yeah, no, it's been
lockdown,
good. It's
we'll
been good.
bring these into the new normal, what they're calling now. So
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a kind of a funny thing because I feel that, it's affected people in so many different ways, some really bad and some really good. Um, I know for me, it's been very refreshing in terms of, like I said, the time with the kids and my husband, and
Yeah.
then also just completely reorganizing my house, which had gotten a little bit out of control while I was in school.
Yeah.
So just, purging and just cleaning and just, so it was really nice to actually be able to have time to do that.
Yeah.
And just to come back to, I forgot to mention earlier when it came to the use of technology for the kids, I also came across some really helpful websites that have a lot of worksheets, games that help them with their math and things like that, which have been very useful. And a lot of them are offering free services right now during the lockdown. So
Okay.
that's very useful for families. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to share
Mhm.
those sites so people watching can?
Sure. So the ones two main ones I'm using are education.com, and the other one is Splash Learn. So Splash,
Oh,
SPLASH. Yeah.
yeah. It used to be Splash Math, but now they switched it to Splash Learn.
Yeah, then it became Splash Learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
exactly. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I've used the Splash Learn
Yeah.
too. I'm
So
not using it now. We were using it
yeah.
a couple months ago, and it was very helpful just to kind of solidify whatever
Yeah.
you're math.
Yes, exactly. That's it. So yeah, so it's really good though. It's we're just taking it one day at a time and not being too hard on ourselves,
Yeah.
because you have to give grace to each other and yeah, just enjoy the time that we have together. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, so you said you had a lot of time with your kids, which is really great.
Yeah.
So for what about for you and your husband? What do you guys
Yeah.
can't like, ask a babysitter to come and look after kids and go out, right? That's not available
Yes.
anymore. So how do you guys make time for each other every day? How do you make it special? What kind of tips can you give couples who need this time but they might
Yeah.
have a hard time juggling it with the kids at home now?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a very good question. I think things haven't changed so much in from how they were before because we always made it a point to have like one evening a week just for us, like a date night.
Mm-hmm.
So we always had that for Saturday nights as much as possible. So we're continuing with that. It's basically an evening when we send the kids off to bed early. Well, early, they get to play until bedtime.
Yeah.
And then we usually watch a movie or play a board game and just talk. So my husband has a really great sense of humor, so he just makes me laugh like all the time. So we just talking is really something that we love to do.
Yeah.
So we always have that. And then in terms of during the week, so he's really busy at work more than even normal, I would say, lately. So it's tricky during the week, but we still try to have moments. If the kids are busy playing, then just reconnecting, talking about our day. We're always joking around, so that's just another way to reconnect. Even if it's just sharing an embrace, hugging the person, telling him how much I love him, and so it's just days, points throughout the day to reconnect, even if you don't have that much time during the week. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what we do.
That's perfect. That's really, really great. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, what kind of lessons have you guys learned as a family? Have you learned any new lessons from this whole COVID-19 lockdown?
Plenty of lessons. So I would say first, yeah, first, just being very grateful for each other because there's so many people who have lost loved ones, so many people who
Mhm.
can't be with their loved ones. So just the fact that we can be together as a family, I know it's something I personally thank God for every day. Every morning when I wake up, I'm like, just thank you that I can be with my family.
Yeah.
Um, grateful, learning to be more grateful and express my gratitude and be grateful for the smallest things. I think it's just been a great time of reflection. And it's also made me realize perhaps we were a little bit too busy before the COVID-19 lockdown. We had so many things going on, and now that it's a bit calmer, it's been really nice to really spend more time with each other. So it's just something to think about when things go back to normal,
Yeah.
whenever that will be, to just be more mindful of things I say yes to and the activities I engage in, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I like what you said
Mhm.
about gratitude because I
Mhm.
find I'm overall usually a thankful person, but I forget to express the gratitude. I like how you said express gratitude, because I'm
Mhm.
also a very internal thought processing person. So
Mhm.
I think a lot during the day, but I may not voice it all
Mhm.
the time. And so,
Mhm.
in the morning, same thing. I get up and I thank the Lord for my family and just, our health. But then
Mhm.
during the day, I have to remind myself, let's say
Mhm.
my kids did something, like helped me with the dishes, helped me do something. I have
Mhm.
to be, okay, express
Mhm.
thanks, because I think
Mhm.
people around you suffer the most in terms of you love them the most, but they sometimes suffer the most at your hands because you don't always express the way you truly feel about them in the moment. So it's something I'm learning, is to express my gratitude more throughout the
Yeah.
days, and just really let them know, oh, you're doing a great job, or oh, I'm so thankful for you for this, like this
Hi,
girl.
Felicity. Hi.
So
Nice to see you.
yeah, so I appreciate you saying expressing gratitude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it's I think we don't necessarily realize how much kids appreciate it. Like, I think it speaks to them, and I mean to anybody really, just a reminder of how much they mean to us. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, do you
Yeah.
have any final remaining encouragements for families during this time who are
Yes.
having a tough time? Maybe even mentally, they feel like they can't take care of themselves in the home.
Yes.
How are they
Yeah.
going to cope with
Yeah.
their whole family at
Yeah.
home?
Yeah. It's a very good question. So just from my own experience, I think just recognizing that it's okay to feel down. It's okay to feel like you don't know what you're doing sometimes, or to feel, like it's overwhelming some days. And to reach out for help. I know it may seem like a common piece of advice, but it's really true that it really helps to have other people know what we're going through, people who we trust, who we love, and who love us. And I think just connecting with people as much as we can
Yeah.
helps with sharing that emotion. And also just being mindful of what we ingest, and by that I mean what we listen to, what we read, what we hear. It's so easy to consumers to get consumed by what's in the media, and it doesn't necessarily have a positive effect on our minds. So just
Mhm.
taking the opportunity to read more positive, inspiring material, um, set daily goals for yourself that you can achieve, but not being hard on yourself if you can't complete all the goals, but just having something to motivate yourself each day.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like I said, being careful about your thoughts. If things are spiraling out of control, reach out for help, and know that you're not alone in this. And it's a global phenomenon, and everybody is being affected in some way. So there's ways to help each other and ways to reach out for help. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Malaika. I really appreciate
oh, oh, you're
someone needs
welcome.
an afternoon nap.
Hopefully you can help
No, thank
somebody.
you so much for just chatting with me, and I'm sure your answers are going to be so helpful and encouraging. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that our discussion was encouraging and inspiring to you, helpful with some of the tips that we shared. Please feel free to comment below on some stories that you want to share about perhaps what you are doing to help in this time for your family to thrive. And or if you have questions, you can post those there too. I hope you all stay safe, stay home, and be healthy.